Hello and welcome back. Beyond excited to talk about what we have to talk about today. It all began when I saw this scene.
My God, Miranda, you are so judgmental.
It's the scene where in Sex and the City, Miranda and Carrie are having this big fight, and all of a sudden, Carrie says,
My God, Miranda, you are so judgmental.
it inspired me in combination with my conversation that I had with a subscriber recently, where we talked about how the whole world is really just extremely judgmental. And if you think you're not judgmental, think again. Today, I want to try to talk about the judgmental nature of us as human beings. I want to dive into all the complex ways that we are all judgmental as a society. So grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your makeup brush, your skincare routine, whatever it is you're doing while listening to me speak. Let's go ahead and dive in. Kiara loves TV. Yes, I made a theme song so that I can talk about all my favorite shows. Oh yeah. And this is just your disclaimer that this is not me talking about any of the actors themselves, but more so their characters. Please do not attack me in the comments. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, even those who disagree with me. But let's keep it friendly. All right, let's get started with the show. As always, I really want to try to be clear. I am not separate from this conversation. I've had my own experiences being very judgmental about things. If I wasn't a judgmental person, or if I didn't offer judgment, I wouldn't even have this channel. You know what I mean? Being a video essayist, like that is part of the job, is to review things. And in order to review things, you have to be judgmental. But over the course of my life, I found myself being judgmental even outside of this atmosphere. I've judged situations without always knowing the full story. I have taken things that were out of context and taken them as truth. So this isn't like a conversation where I am attacking the people who are judgmental, because I am a part of that percentage. It's human to be judgmental, but the problem enters when that judgment lacks all compassion for other people. TikTok is always a great way to look at the judgment of the world and how people are inherently judgmental. There are present day examples in this, like in the internet, because I feel like the internet has such a habit of not being understanding or being very hypocritical. And I know that like in this scenario, we're talking about two completely different people. The internet just has a really bad habit of just always, like finding a way to make something negative that someone is trying to do, or just assuming the worst in general. For example, there was a situation, everybody knows about it, the whole thing with the Travis Scott situation. And I'm not going to comment on my own personal feelings about that, because I don't think that that's my place, and I don't think that now is the time to do so. But what I will say is that SZA in a TikTok video, this is like kind of old, but she was trying to hand out water to her fans. And so as you'll see here, you have one side of people who are gracious about it and feel like, oh yes, this is what all celebrities should do more often. And then you have the people that are just literally just striving to be negative, and they are saying things like, oh, she's doing the most or whatever. And it's like, but everybody's outraged about the whole Travis thing, but you're trying to make it seem like she's being extra for doing literally what everyone is asking. Like, I don't understand that. And that was another thing that I talked about with one of my subscribers. The fact that like I find myself in situations like that where I feel like I try to go out of my way to like make sure I'm clear about my points and make sure that everything is well thought out, and try to consider my audience and try to consider like even not my audience, even people that just kind of are casually watching my videos. And I still get comments where people are like, oh, you don't need to put spoiler alert. You don't need to put spoiler alert. You don't need to go out of your way to say this and say that. And people get mad at me for saying stuff like, hey, there's a spoiler here. Because I always try to think of it like, when I'm watching something, even if it's old, and this is usually where I think the frustration comes in at, because like a lot of stuff I talk about on here is pretty old, and people feel like, well, if they haven't seen it by now, then, it's no point. But I recently got into Gilmore Girls in 2019. Some people grew up on it. Some people have been watching it for years, and, that's great and all. But, sometimes you just want to consume content and you don't want the spoiler. Like, and it doesn't make me mad when I do get a spoiler. It just makes me like, dang, like I kind of wish I would have had the option to like avoid the spoiler if I wanted to. And I don't do it on all of my videos, but whenever I do, I always get one comment or two or three comments that are just like, don't put spoiler alert. Why are you putting spoiler alert? Like, because I want to. So let's get back to what we were originally even talking about. It's about being judgmental. Like, the internet is just very, very judgmental. And like I said, using TikTok as a way to understand the judgment of the world is, I think, a very good scope to look at things through, because it's so obvious and it's right in your face. And it's something that people can relate to because a large percentage of the population uses TikTok. Not everybody. I have to say that. I have to say not everybody. Like, I have to say not everybody, because people will always be in the comments and they will say things like, okay, but I don't use TikTok. I don't do this. And I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't really, it's kind of like, if it doesn't apply, kind of just let it fly. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to, like, sometimes it's okay to generalize. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's okay to generalize. And I just feel like if it doesn't apply to you, and I'm not saying, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that, like, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Please, I'm begging. In that scene, it just really makes me think, like, she's attacking her for being judgmental of a situation, but everybody's judgmental. Even when Charlotte makes certain decisions, Carrie is judgmental, and not judgmental in a way that makes sense sometimes. Someone has brought this up, and also I thought about this myself when I was watching the show, and I completely agree with them when they said this, but like, it's really weird to me that Carrie is the one in the show that is the sex columnist, because she's so close-minded about sex. And even Samantha has pointed that out before, that like, she is very close-minded about certain things. Like, for a sex columnist, she is very close-minded. For me, it makes a lot more sense that Samantha would be the sex columnist because of the way that she could really tell some stories, like, I'm sure. And she does, like, in her storyline, you see her going through a lot of different things, trying different things. Like, she's the person that I think you would expect. But Carrie is very monogamous. She's very judgmental, even though she doesn't think that she is. Close-minded to a lot of different things. And it's just like, how are you the sex columnist? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I also think it's a really interesting thing how people will talk about cringe culture. And let's talk about that for a second. Cringe culture, in my opinion, from what I've observed, it seems like it's just an excuse to bully people because you don't understand why they want to be interested in certain things or why they want to do certain things. So it's like, oh, let's poke fun at them and let's mask it under, oh, it's cringe. But really, it's just you bullying them. Like, I see a lot of TikToks where people, and I think there's even a lot of YouTube videos probably around this topic where they talk about the lack of originality. And I'm like, of course there's no originality. We live in a generation that is based on your value as a person is equated to how many likes and views and subscribers and everything that you have, how many people like you. Like, it's like, if people see, I've experienced this myself. Like, when I was in high school, let me tell you guys a little story. When I was in high school, I would do things. I was kind of annoying. I would do things that was a little bit different from other people. And I remember, like, I would get hated on so bad about these things. And it would be like, not too long after I did it, then somebody else who was more popular than me or someone who was more liked than me would do the same thing, and that would be accepted. Like, I remember when Solange came out with the Don't Touch My Hair music video, and she has the scene where she's like rocking the beads back and forth, and my mom saw that and was like, oh, you should do that with your hair, like, you should do that. And I was like, you know what, I was like, I'm down. Like, I was willing to try it. So I went to school and I had like the same thing she had, like from the root down, I had nothing but like beads. I got called Rick James. I got called a bunch of things. And that was an experience that kind of like, I think it started my journey on like where I started to get really self-conscious about what I would do in my personality and just things like that, because it felt like I would try to like do things that I thought were interesting and cool and unique, and they were different or they were outside of what most people were doing, and I would get bullied for it. And given I was probably really annoying, I'm almost certain that a lot of the bullying came from the fact that people just really thought I was annoying and that I talked too much, and they weren't wrong. But nonetheless, that does not give you an excuse to bully people for being different. Like, I have always found the people that are different and that do different things, like, I've always found them the most interesting, because people that keep trying to follow trends, they are some of the most boring people you ever meet. Like, most of the people that try to follow every single trend, they are so boring. But those are the people that are doing so well on TikTok. In a short way of saying it, it's really annoying when people are online. Like, I see them all the time, like, oh my God, nobody's different. Nobody's doing anything different. And then you have someone who does something different. It's not on trend, which that's what a lot of my videos are, in my opinion. I don't think that they're on trend. I wouldn't say that. I would say I just kind of do what I make videos about what I'm interested in, and it's not always on trend, you know, and I'm not always talking about the latest shows. And that doesn't make me better than anybody, but I'm just saying that, like, those videos, especially the videos where, like, I kind of take a leap and I try to, like, step outside of something in a way, they don't do as well. But then it's like, okay, well, I'm doing something that not really everybody's doing, and it's like, you know, and then maybe that's my flaw. Maybe that's my flaw, to weigh the value of those videos based off of how much attention it's getting. How can you expect people to be different and to make these brilliant moves, and then as soon as they do something different, instead of having an accurate critique where you tell them why it's not being received well, you just say it's cringy. Oh my God, cringe. Oh my God, cringe. Oh my God, cringe. Like, what is that? Like, it's like, is everything is cringe to somebody, if you think about it. Like, that's what gives me the courage to keep doing whatever it is that I want to do sometimes, even though sometimes, like, I kind of get in my head about things, but, like, for the most part, that's what gives me the courage to do that, because I feel like everything that I've done at some point has probably been cringe to someone. And I think you shouldn't let that, like, weigh in on what you do, even though I've done it, but I'm saying you shouldn't. The internet is weird because they want you to be different, but they want you to be different in, like, a controlled environment. They want you to be different, but only to a certain extent. I hear people all the time, they're like, oh my God, like, I just wish people would stop making music about, like, you know, like, guns and violence and, like, you know, and I agree. I wish that there would be more music made about, like, feelings, because I have a lot of them, and I would love if they would make more music about that. Like, people who look like me, who would make more music about that. At the same time, you get people like SZA, who kind of gave us, like, a blend of that. And I'm not, like, here to review the SZA album, but I have been listening to it on repeat, I'm not gonna lie. Could you not know me and met it with laughter? Okay, but yeah, people are craving that. They say that on the internet, and it's just so weird to me. Like, it's just so weird, because it's also like, you have people, like, characters, like, I could go on and on. People complain about things not having enough substance. Like, you know, all people rap about is the same thing, and, you know, there's nothing new, da 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 da. But then you get people, again, like I said, you get people like SZA, who came in and gave us, like, a blend of both, like, the stuff that's expected for her to make, and talked about her feelings and how she's insecure. And you got people out here, like, saying, like, I can't listen to the SZA album because I can't hear her talk about being a loser, when I don't resonate with that. Okay, you don't resonate with that, but, like, come on now. Like, have you you're telling me you've never been insecure? Really? You've never been insecure ever in life? Really? For real? How you do that? Where you buy that at? That's on Amazon? It's also weird when people are, like, getting mad at celebrities or people in, like, some kind of high position, and they're like, they don't even listen to the people that, like, absorb their content, or they don't even listen. And it's like, how do you know? For real, like, comment that down below. How do you know who to listen to if you're always getting two sides of the opinions? It's like me, for example, me and my theme song. A lot of people love it. A lot of people think that it's great. A lot of people comment things like, oh, I sing along to it every single time. I love your theme song. I love it. And then I get another set of comments that's like, oh my God, this theme song. Like, no theme song. Like, you know, whatever. And they really hate it. But if I sit up here and take my theme song out, and then there's, like, a whole percentage of people that have loved it, and that percentage might be, like, higher than the people that hate it. But how am I supposed to gauge that? How am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know how to operate and listen to the audience if I'm getting so many opinions? Like, if I consider that listening to my audience and I cut the theme song out, And then a whole bunch of people start commenting stuff like, no, wait, where's the theme song? How am I supposed to know who to listen to? Like, it can be such a mind-numbing thing, which is why, like, me personally, like, I cannot wait to get off social media. I cannot wait to get off social media. People will literally take celebrities and put them on this, like, I could go on and on about this for hours, about how I watch people all the time, and I've done it. I've judged people. I'm not, like, that's not the point in this. I'm not saying that I have not judged people. I'm not trying to, like, separate myself from it. I'm separate from the judgment without compassion now, I think. Like, I think I'm a lot more compassionate than I probably have ever been, but at the same time, it just irks my soul when I watch people like put celebrities like on this pedestal and treat them as though they're not even people anymore, and then they sit up here and will judge them and like try to bury their name for things that they are probably doing themselves. Like, they're probably doing worse than that themselves, but it makes people feel good. And I think that's what I want to get into next, is why are people so judgmental? It's because a lot of time I think people are so judgmental of other people, and they lack compassion within that judgment because they feel like it's okay to do it to other people because it's not them. It's not them, and they feel like I can stand from afar and look at you and point out all of your flaws because it's not me. I think that really harsh criticism that celebrities receive a lot of the time comes from people looking at them like, oh, well, you make a lot of money and you have a lot of people that follow you and you have this and you have that. They look at all the things that they have instead of the actual contents of the person. And they look at them and they say, well, you're so talented and you've shared your gifts with the world and you have all these things to say that I've agreed with. How dare you say this one thing that I don't agree with? How dare you step out of that? How dare you step outside of my fantasy? I think people like create a fantasy of people in their mind of what they think that this person is off camera. And that's not always who they are. And then people get really disappointed by that. And it's like, oh, canceled. I've said this before multiple times. I don't believe in cancel culture anymore. I don't. I used to a long time ago because I thought that was the way to go, but I don't believe in that anymore. I believe in accountability, and I believe in people moving on and people who want to change having the ability to change if they want to, if they're open to that. Not talking about the people who just are so stuck in their ways. They don't care what anybody thinks. They don't care for critique, whether it's healthy or negative. I'm talking about the people that genuinely want to be better, but just aren't given the chance because people are so ready to cancel them for literally anything. I think it is such a disservice to the human race to like try to off people for making mistakes. That's essentially what it is. It's giving Marie Antoinette, telling people that they don't deserve to live because they've made choices that you don't agree with. And I'm not talking about like the super problematic stuff. I'm not talking about like the stuff that is like the stuff that obviously, you know, like we know the stuff that's like obviously wrong and there's no coming back from that. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about like, oh, like a celebrity was misinformed, and so they made a decision or they said something that was like kind of insensitive or whatever, and they've never experienced like that environment where saying XYZ was not okay. This is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but the truth of it is you cannot expect everybody to know everything. You cannot wake up in the morning and expect everybody to know every piece of knowledge that you've ever learned. Some people are genuinely out here trying to be better people and trying to learn from their mistakes, and they genuinely want to get better. Like, believe it or not everybody is just trying to be a person. Some people just genuinely are more prone to fuck-ups than other people. But it's just, that's the theme of the internet, is that it's just so much judgment. It's so much judgment, whether it's even positive versus negative, like even the way that we judge movies, like even the way that some movies do better than others, even the way that with YouTube, I am being constantly encouraged to, you know, like change my thumbnails, or if your video's not doing well, consider your thumbnail. Even things like this are judgment because they're based off of the judgment of how people will perceive me, like without even watching the content, how they'll perceive the video just by the way that the thumbnail looks. And I'm not saying that I'm not part of that. I'm just saying that that is also a part of judgment. If you think you're not judgmental, think again, because literally the way that you choose to consume content versus the way that you don't, that's being judgmental. It's being judgmental on a smaller scale, I think, a little bit less harmful, but you're still being judgmental because even the way that you've chosen to watch this video, you're choosing to watch this video based off of the thumbnail, based off of how much you think it's going to be interesting or not, or based off how much you think that I'm interesting or not. And that's fine. But I think as a society, we just have to have a lot more compassion and patience with each other. I just wanted to share that because, you know, I had this really interesting conversation with the subscriber, like I said, and I love talking to you guys and I love hearing your opinions on things because it's definitely helped me reshape my own mind. You know, before I started this channel, my mindset was one way and it's definitely changed a lot. Like, I don't even agree sometimes with all of the points that I've made in previous videos because I've read the comments and you guys have been able to like add a little bit more perspective to what I originally thought. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support the channel, don't forget to give it a nice thumbs up. And that sounded so corny, but anyway, so give it a thumbs up and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.